Welcome to the LongCovidPodcast with me, Jackie Baxter. I am really excited to bring you today's episode. Please do check out the links in the show notes where you can find the podcast website, social media and support group, as well as a link to buy me a coffee if you are able. You should not rely on any medical information contained in this podcast and related materials in making medical, health-related or other decisions. Please do consult a doctor or other health professional. I love to hear from you. If you've got any suggestions or feedback or just want to say hey, then please do get in touch. I really hope you enjoy this episode, so here we go. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Long COVID podcast. I am really excited today to have Esther with me, and I'll let her introduce herself in a second, but we're going to talk about all sorts of things around recovering from long COVID and what she's been doing to try to help. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very, very much. It's an honor to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. So would you mind introducing yourself a little bit? So who are you and what do you do?
Yes, of course. I'm Esther. I'm from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. I'm almost 50 years old. I got 2 kids and a husband, and which is a very lovely husband, and we're all very happy together. So that's nice.
Fantastic. Would you mind talking a little bit about your sort of initial illness with COVID? When did you get ill?
Yes. Well, I got ill in this whole COVID period, actually, right at the beginning of all of this in March 2020. And I got ill on the day that the first person in the Netherlands was discovered having COVID. And actually, he was discovered in some village that I was supposed to have visited that day. But I decided not to go because I was feeling so bad. So it started out with me just being so tired I couldn't, do anything. And this just lasted for 1 week. And that was all. I didn't have any other symptoms. It was just feeling tired, and it just went away after a week. And then I had a period, I think, of a couple of weeks in which I was totally okay. And then it came back. And then I had some more symptoms. I had, I'm not even sure the symptoms in which order they appeared, but I had headaches. I had shortness of breath. I had tingling fingers. I don't even remember all the symptoms. It just kept on adding up, and then I was sick for 2 weeks. Lying in bed, not being able to do anything. And I recovered again. And then I got back to work and did this for, a month, 2 months. And then I got sick again. And this just went on and on and on like that for the rest of the year. So then it was December and I was getting sick again. And this was in the Christmas holidays. And I was just thinking, okay, I'm really taking it easy right now. I'm not working. I got a lot of time to do, just rest and whatever. And I didn't recover. And I thought, okay, now something is wrong here. Something is going on. And I don't know what this is. But and in the meantime, I had been tested. But this was only in June that they were testing in the Netherlands. So the first period in March and April, there was no testing available. Only when you were really, really, really sick, being admitted to the hospital. And I actually went to this hospital at some point because I couldn't even walk for 5 meters without being totally out of breath. And I was just like this the whole time. And I thought, this is not all right. I got to get to the hospital. And they didn't admit me. They said, nothing's wrong with your lungs, nothing's wrong in your blood pressure's fine, you're doing, I don't know what you're doing, but it's nothing. So just go back home. And I did go back home and they didn't test me. So this was all very insecure as well. Of course, that didn't help. And I was just, on my own. I was just left on my own to deal with this. And I got this sickness and then back again and all of that. So that went on, like I said, till December. And from that period on, I just stayed on being ill. and I didn't recover anymore in between. So, and that lasted till the 2nd of June. I know the exact date. I'm going to celebrate it as my second birthday this year of 2021. So that's how I got sick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time, isn't it? I've spoken to quite a few people and I've seen people's stories in support groups, and this idea of the relapsing and the ups and downs and the complete unpredictability of the symptoms and the illness and how you're going to feel. And when it goes on for that long, it's scary because you don't know what's causing it. And, we're in the middle of a pandemic, which is worrying anyway. So it's a really horrible feeling, isn't it? Did you start to hear about the term long COVID at some point?
Yes, I did. I'm not sure when exactly though, but this period in December, this was a kind of a pivotal moment, because that's when I decided, okay, I need to get some help, even if my home physician, or what you call that in English, general practitioner, I think, yeah, GP. She was not helpful at all. She was just, she didn't do anything actually. And so I got the phone number of this. This was a sort of a new institution that they made up in the Netherlands, and it's called C Support. And this was actually for people who do have these long-term COVID complaints. So I'm not sure they called it long COVID by then already, but that's how they treated it.
Yeah, so they had acknowledged that people weren't recovering, at least.
Yeah, and actually what they told me was, yes, there is something going on. No, you're not crazy. So that was really, helping me a lot, I thought at the moment. And then at the same time, they said, but you cannot do this alone. This is really, you cannot deal with this, you need some professional help. It gave me the message anyway that this was really something dangerous or something. Yeah, it was so new and nobody knew how to treat it, and they didn't actually know how to treat it either. But they did say, okay, you need to get some professional help. So that's when I started this whole course of going to the occupational therapist, or actually she came to visit me because I did not have enough energy to go there, and also the physical therapist. So that started from January in 2021.
So what sort of things were they helping you with?
Well, the occupational therapist, she mostly tried to slow me down, I should say. I was just trying to do too much. And she said, I was trying to work still at that time. And she said, you need to stop working. You need to recover first, get rid of all these symptoms, and then, slowly start getting back to work. So that's what I did. I stopped working. I was home the full time, and she had me fill out all these schedules about all the activities I did in a day and how much energy they cost me, or sometimes things would give me energy new. So, but this actually, in hindsight, was not so helpful. But I thought at the moment it was I was actually just happy that someone was looking into this and I wasn't alone anymore. So I thought, okay, this is a professional. They know what they're doing. Okay, well, I can trust in that. But the thing was, I didn't actually make any progress. And then she had to lower the schedule, a few times, where I started out in a normal day, before COVID, I might have done like 150 points a day. And now I started out with, I think, maybe 20 points a day. And then she had to lower that to 11 points a day. And then she had to lower it again to 6 points a day, and just getting the kids ready for school in the morning would be 6 points. And that would be, all my energy for the day. So I couldn't do anything at some point. And I would just, sit all day. And I wanted to go outside, but every time I just got for a little walk, for a 10-minute walk, I would be in bed for 3 days. Just being so ill, I couldn't do anything again. So I did not recover at all. I think I actually got worse in that period.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think something that worried me was, I realised that I needed to do less because I was trying to do too much. This idea of resting is not something that I'm very good at. But I think I was also worried that if I did too little, it would be really hard to get that back, and finding that balance of resting enough but not becoming completely unable to do anything. It was really hard to find that balance for me.
Yes, and what I later found out actually, that the whole crucial thing was not about doing too much. The crucial thing was being afraid of doing too much, or being afraid that I had done too much. And that was enough to just set off all the symptoms.
Yeah, definitely. So you started doing all of this occupational therapy and stuff in January. How long did you go on with that for?
I went on with that for, I think, well, the occupational therapy, I think, for half a year. And the physical therapist, she actually stopped treating me at some point because she said, your symptoms are just so bad. I cannot build on anything here. If I put you on a bike for 2 minutes, you'll be sick for 3 days. So there's nothing we can do at this moment. And this was, of course, also very scary. I was just sent home thinking, okay, well, she cannot help me. Who else is gonna, do something that's gonna help me? So that really scared me.
Yeah, it's like almost like they gave up.
Yes, that's what it felt like. And actually, at the time, I was kind of relieved because it did feel like, something was being asked of me all the time that I couldn't do. So I was happy I didn't have to do that anymore. But at the same time, I was just really, really worried about how am I going to get better then? How am I going to get some progress into this?
We'll be right back. I'm interrupting myself for a second to tell you about long COVID breathing. The fabulous Vicky Jones and I have teamed up to bring you long COVID breathing. We are both passionate about sharing our expertise and experience of the breath and how incredibly helpful that can be with long COVID. We've worked together to develop a course that is specifically tailored to those with long COVID. It's a 6-week course with 12 sessions, all delivered online. The community feel and learning that we're all sharing is such a joy. To find out more information and to sign up for our courses, workshops and other shorter sessions, please check out the link below, longcovidbreathing.com, or email longcovidbreathing@gmail.com to start your breathing journey with us. Yeah, and I think, like you say, sometimes the relief is a good thing. You think, right, well, I hated doing that, so now I don't have to do it anymore. But of course, the other side of that is, well, that was supposed to make me better. And if that's not going to make me better, then what is?
True.
And then you start to lose that hope. Certainly I felt that, and that was a really horrible thing. When you feel like you don't know what to do and you haven't got any hope, then you start feeling all sorts of other things.
Yeah. Well, actually, this point, I think maybe is an important point to make, because one of the things I learned, that's something that Nicole Sachs, she mentions, that she says, if you have the gift of desperation, that's the moment when you start looking for other ways to get better. And actually, I think I needed to get this low, to get to this point where I thought, okay, well, regular medicine is obviously not going to help me anymore. What am I going to do now? So yeah, this was kind of a process somehow that I needed to go through, I think, to get to where I am right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. You've got to get to the lowest point in order to climb out of it, I guess.
Yes, sort of, yeah.
It's a bit of a trite way of putting it, but...
No, but I think, yeah, you're right.
So you said you started to look elsewhere, and what did you find, and did it start helping?
Yes. Well, I had been reading some stuff in this period before June already, and it was about how the brain works and how pain works in the brain. Actually, it's not, pain is not so much in your body, but it's an interpretation of the brain about what is important about this sensation that I'm feeling or not. And I was learning some things about how this brain works. It didn't really sink in, and I couldn't really get it into my system in a way that helped me. But in hindsight, I think this was also into this process that I needed to go through. I tried some nutritional things that helped me for a couple of days, and then the effect would be gone again. And I did try some massages and things that would help me relax. And actually, the massages were way too much for my body to handle. This was I was just so sensitive at some point. I couldn't handle anything. I couldn't be touched, or, the light would be too much for me. I would just sit and garden in the shade with my sunglasses on under a blanket because I was cold and I was, not going anywhere. So, and also this low point that I reached was also the point that I decided, where I live, there's a really, really nice park, sort of forest behind our house. Actually, it's just, I walk outside the door and I'm in the forest. So I would, love to go for walks all the time, but I couldn't anymore. And I thought, okay, I need to get out somehow. So I thought, okay, let's see if I can get a wheelchair somewhere, so I can ask my neighbor friends to roll me through the park. And this was just an unbelievable step for me, because I was just, before this, I was really fit and, working out and doing all kinds of stuff. So this was just unimaginable for me. But anyway, I thought, okay, I have to do this. So that was actually, maybe that was the lowest point. I'm not sure. Looking into that, yes.
Yeah, getting outside, it does make such a difference, doesn't it? Like you, I was really fit before this. I was climbing mountains and running and all sorts. And if I went outside, it made me remember all the things that I couldn't do. And then I started hating it. I didn't want to go and sit outside. I wanted to go and run, but I couldn't do that. And I ended up in this kind of cycle of, I don't want to do that. I can't do any of it. So I don't want to do even a little bit, sort of thing, which was, again, it's part of that thing where you have to go through that in order to come out the other side, because now I enjoy being outside, even though I can't do the things that I want to do. But it gives you such a lift, doesn't it, to be outside?
Yes.
So can we talk a bit about your recovery? How did you do it? Because I think that's the question we all want to know, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, I didn't actually do all that much. The first thing all of this mind-body work, actually, that's what it's about. That's something you start doing once a doctor has confirmed that there's actually no tissue damage or no structural damage, in your brain or your heart or your lungs or whatever part of your body, that could have been affected by this COVID. So that's something, you need to check that out first. And once you've done that, and had this kind of talk maybe with your physician, where they say, okay, so we cannot find anything wrong with you, that's maybe when you can start working on this material, I think. But like I said, I do remember the exact date that it happened. That's what I feel like it happened. That was the 2nd of June on 2021. And what I did was I listened to a podcast by Nicole Sachs with another fellow long COVID sufferer who had recovered, doing the work that Nicole Sachs is promoting. And what she was talking about was what they call that is TMS. I'm not sure if that is the right scientific term, but what they said was, there's not anything spectacularly wrong with your body. Your body is doing what it's supposed to do, actually. When your brain tells you to do all these things, she said, it's not in your head. You're not imagining anything. It's just the symptoms you have, they are real and you're not making them up. But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with the body, actually. And what you need to focus on is not so much all these small physical or big physical symptoms that you have, but the emotions that you're holding back or repressing or whatever. And once you let those come out and be seen and be heard, even if it's only for yourself, that's enough, actually. And that's telling your brain it can relax. And then you can your brain will tell your body everything is okay. That's sort of my explanation. But actually, I listened to this podcast and it was an hour. And I thought, oh my God, an hour. That's a really long time to listen to something. But okay, I'm not doing anything. So let's just try this. And while I was listening to this story of this other fellow patient of ours, I was just thinking, okay, this actually makes sense. This actually does make a lot of sense. And then on the same day, I felt my symptoms just drop, 80%. And I was just like amazed. And the whole thing was just acknowledging that there had been fear and there had been anger at being just so ill all the time and not being able to get any better and just being worried about it all the time. And just acknowledging that I was that worried and angry and scared and all of that. That just helped me tremendously. And I didn't do anything actually on that day but sit and listen to this new knowledge that I had encountered. So yeah, that's what happened. And then from then on, I started looking into what is this TMS, and actually what they call it now is mind-body syndrome. And I was looking into that, and they said, just stop focusing on all these physical symptoms and just try doing stuff anyway. And telling yourself and telling your brain that you can actually do this. You can feel these feelings, you can be still scared, whatever, but you can take a little walk. You're not gonna get hurt from a little walk, And I think it was that day or the next day that I went to pick up the kids from school, riding the electric bike, and I was very, very, okay, is this going to be okay? But this was just 5 minutes on the e-bike, very, very slowly. And then all I did was pick up the kids and bring them back home. And this was all right. And nothing big happened. Well, actually, my body did try to, or my brain actually tried to fool me again. Because now I did not have this big fatigue anymore. And I did not have this shortness of breath anymore. And I didn't have the headaches anymore. But now it gave me a terrible, terrible pain in my neck and my shoulders. And it was just clenched up totally, like I couldn't move. Anyway, I went on doing some activities, and I was in the meantime telling myself, okay, brain, I know what you're doing now. You're trying to protect me because you're thinking that these emotions or this fear that I have of moving again and maybe getting sick again, all this stuff that's going on in my mind, and you have to protect me against that by giving me this terrible pain, so I will just stay in my chair and do nothing. And I thought, okay, I know what's going on now. I'm not going to listen to this. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, not too much, but went and do some stuff. And this actually went okay. And the pain in my shoulders went away after 2 days. And that was it, basically. And then the rest of the symptoms, the rest of the 20%, it just faded out more gradually in the period of, I think, a couple of months after that. But the reduction on that first day, of what I call 80%, was just such a huge, sort of revelation to me that that was enough, actually. I considered myself cured on that day because that was just such a big difference.
Yeah, and this idea that your symptoms are real, you are definitely feeling them. I mean, I think people get a bit upset, completely understandably, if they think people are telling them that their symptoms are in their heads. But I think that's not what you're trying to say here, is it?
We'll be right back.
Hey there, I'm just jumping in for a second to see if you're enjoying this episode. If you're finding it useful, maybe you would consider sharing it somewhere, a friend, a group, or even on your Twitter feed. If everyone was able to share just once, we'd be able to get this information out to even more people who really, really need it. So please consider sharing somewhere if you possibly can. I hope you enjoy the episode, and thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's just one of the people that I've been reading a lot from, and also doing this program that he has that I found was really valuable, is Dr. Schubner. Well, I can tell you later on about where to find that. He also has this really good explanation of how this works, actually. And this is your brain and your nervous system creates neural pathways, he calls it, that are a reaction to stress or to stress and emotions, can create the neural pathways that can cause chronic and often severe physical reactions. And he also says that childhood hurts can lead to an oversensitive nervous system that can actually, fire up again whenever there's a new stressor coming up that you're trying to repress, I guess, trying not to deal with in the face of it. But that creates actually these physical symptoms, because I cannot explain it the way he does. If you want to know how this actually works, this is just brain science, and he also gives these simple explanations as well. When you're feeling shy or you're feeling self-conscious about something, you start to blush. This is an emotion giving a physical reaction. And that's actually, when we think about it this way, or when you're sad, there's water coming into your eyes. That's a physical reaction. And when we think of it this way, we think, oh yeah, of course, that's how it works. We know this works like this. But when it comes to chronic pain or chronic fatigue or chronic symptoms or whatever, we find it hard to believe that it actually works the same way. And these are actually emotions, and also the journal speak that I did for a couple of months. That's the method that Nicole Sachs is using. That is just a way, of letting out all these emotions and not letting anybody read it or whatever. Just, for yourself, just type. I'm angry. I'm just, throwing it all out. And that just gives just such a relief to the brain. The brain can then finally think, okay, I can actually feel these emotions without anything going wrong. We're not dying. We're not actually in any physical danger or whatever. I can just, let go. I can just relent. And then, these physical symptoms. And I know this now, because sometimes it still gets to me, sometimes. And then there are moments that I forget. I have to pay attention to these emotions. And like, for instance, one day, I don't know when, in September or whatever, I got this terrible headache. And I was thinking, oh, where does this headache come from again? Because I had this as part of the long COVID for so many months, and then it was just gone. And now it was here again. And I thought, what's going on? And when I was thinking about this, actually, what was going on was we had sent the kids to school on their bikes alone for the first time. And where we usually go with them and, be there at all the crossings and say, okay, please stop now, there's a car coming and all of that. And they would have to do that themselves, of course. And that just, really scared me as a mother. And at the same time, I did not allow myself to feel that, because I thought, okay, this is a thing they're going to have to do at some point, and all the other kids are doing it, and all the other mothers probably, or whatever, they don't have a problem with it. So why I cannot have a problem with this? I have to be okay with this. And this just, this gave me such a headache, because it just, I could not reconcile the two. And once I noticed this, and once I thought about what was going on, it just subsides. The headache would be just gone in 5 minutes. And that's actually how it works. And I've found out how this works now. I even do it in my sleep. I do it in my dreams, when I go to bed, having some of these symptoms, and I think, okay, I'll deal with that the next morning. Now I'm going to go to sleep. I'm not going to, okay, this is probably emotions again, but I don't want to go there, not now. I just want to sleep. So, but then in my sleep, in my dream, I'm actually processing this still. And I'm thinking in my sleep, where can I go? Where are all these emotions? What's going on? And then I just resolve them in my dream. And then in the dream, I just start to relax and be okay again. And I wake up being okay the next morning. So this is just, I've practiced all these exercises that Schubiner has and that Nicole Sachs has. And there's lots and lots of more, resources that you can use. But I've practiced this a lot, and this is actually kind of ingrained into my system now. So now I know what to do whenever something comes up again. And actually what I've learned is this was not just a long COVID. When I look back on my life, it's been like that for 30 years, I think. I had migraines, I had pain in my knees, I had pain in my back, I had this recurring fatigue also. I had that for years and years. I'd be in bed for a week every 2 months. Yeah. And this has been going on for 10 years. So this is just, it's the same thing going on. So I'm just really, really happy that I learned how this works, and I think this can, really, really help others as well. Just knowing about this.
Yeah, definitely. And you've kind of developed those coping strategies, and you know how to deal with it now. So when it does pop up because of something that happens in your life now, you know how to deal with it now.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Those things that you just mentioned, Nicole, and the Dr. Schubner, I'll make sure that I put links to them in the show notes. So if anybody listening to this wants to check them out, they can look at those links, because that sounds like that's made a huge difference for you. But I mean, I've noticed myself, and I've definitely noticed people talk about it in support groups and things, that since COVID, they've been having really weird dreams. And I've noticed this as well. And it was a really big thing when I spoke to my counsellor maybe a few weeks ago. And she asked me if I was dreaming. And I said, oh, well.
Yes.
Thinking that I was going to explain all of these really strange dreams to her and that she was going to think I was crazy. And what she said was, well, it's your body trying to process stuff. And when I realised that made quite a big difference, because she explained some of my dreams and she said, well, it's this feeling or it's that feeling, and it's your body telling you how you feel. And it was. And realising that, that definitely helped. And I'm definitely not there yet, but I feel like each little thing it's a piece of the puzzle. And you're putting together a puzzle of all of these things, and hopefully eventually I'm going to have a light bulb moment like you did, where I go, yay.
Well, that's just different, for people. Sometimes it's like a moment, and sometimes it's just, a more gradual process, and both are fine,
It is really interesting though. I mean, it's certainly a very British thing to repress emotions. You don't show emotions, you're not allowed to do that, because that's not how we do things. And I don't know if that's part of it, but
yes, I think actually in the Netherlands it's the same. Well, or maybe for me it was the same anyway. Just not make too much noise, not be too, I don't know, extroverted or whatever. Just, be quiet, be a good girl, all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes just feel like, not being a good girl, and I'm just feel like, yeah, well, you can be frustrated about, little things, or just, or bigger things like the COVID and pandemic, that's a big thing.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so much going on in the world that triggers emotions, and I think that's fine, but we need to know how to deal with it. Like you say, that's where we're not very good at it.
Yeah.
But that's really, really useful, and I'm so happy that you're recovered. That's awesome.
Thank you, and I'm really happy you're on the way too. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think for a long time I just didn't know what to do, and I feel like at last that I do, and it's taking more time than I want it to, which is leading to more frustration, and I know that's not necessarily helpful, but I finally do feel like I'm getting there. So I think those stories of people who have recovered are really important. So maybe that leads us onto the next part, because you've set up a blog with recovery stories. Is that right?
Yes, I did. Well, I'm not actually the one who set it up. I don't know how I came across this, but I found it on the internet, and I thought the title of the website is LongCovidCured.com, and I thought this was just a brilliant, title, all of that. And I just, so I looked into that, and then I found this was actually, it was a blog already, but it had only, I think at that time, only one person's story on it, and then a whole bunch of information and resources that you can use to get better. And I thought, this is great, just has everything, that you need. So, and it has resources for people with different personalities, and what works for you can be different for me. And, there's different methods that you can use. But actually, this website at that point was not very accessible. It had just one page, and then it had all the information just on one page, and it was not clickable at all. And I thought, okay, if this is such a brilliant title of the website, we need to get this better presented. So I offered my help to try to do that. But the thing is, I'm not a web designer myself, so I didn't know what I was getting into at all. But I thought, okay, maybe I can do better. So that's what I tried. And then I started looking around a little bit for people who had recovered as well, using these similar methods to get more stories onto this website. And like you say, I think it's very important that people can read, people with different perspectives, just telling their own stories, not telling the medical story necessarily behind it, but just, the process they went through and what they learned and how they did it. So people can learn from it and can see, there is hope and there is ways to recover, and there's people who've done this. So that's what I've been trying to do. And the thing is, I am, like I said, a working mom, so I don't have so much time to actually do this. And so the website still needs a lot of work. It's not the professional website that I would like it to be, but it's getting better. And so it has these stories of people, and it has a lot of resources that you can use. It has just all these links to other websites and professionals who've been working in this field for, I don't know how long, and who are great experts on this issue, and they can, really explain all the science behind it, which I cannot. I'm a lay person. I'm just telling my story. But there's people who can really explain how this works in your brain. And that just is really helpful, I think, just knowing how this works and knowing you're not crazy, you're not making this up. This is just how the brain and the body work.
Oh, that's brilliant. Because I think, certainly I was saying earlier, I like answers. I like to know what's happening, and I want to know why it's happening, because that kind of helps me to process things. Once I understand it, then I can start to kind of work through things. And I don't know if other people are the same. I'm sure some people are. But like you say, it's really useful to kind of understand what's going on, because once you're aware of something, then you're able to work on it or to do what you need to do once you get it, I think.
Exactly. And also, it just has a lot of practical exercises that you can just do, and they've been scientifically reviewed, so this is just, it's not something they just made up, this is actually, it has a scientific basis to it. So, and that just really helped me, also doing all these writing exercises, and also, processing what's behind it for me anyway. So that's been really good.
Yeah, amazing. So I will make sure that the link to the website, as well as all the other things that you've mentioned, are in the show notes. So yeah, go and check them out, because they've obviously made a huge difference to you. So hopefully they'll help other people as well. So yeah, that's amazing.
And what I also would like to add, because what was part of why I got sick and why I did not want to process all of this, initially, is because I can be a little strict with myself, or a little severe. This is what you have to do, and this is what you have to be like everybody else, and everybody else apparently can do all this. So why can I not do this? So just, I can be a little strict for myself. And so in case any of the people listening to this are also like that, there's also a big part of recovery is also, being compassionate with yourself and being kind to yourself, and not blaming yourself for what happened, or being strict or severe, saying, you should have known all this, and you shouldn't have done it this way. And, just let it happen and be, like I said, kind to yourself. And there's also some exercises, for instance, by Kristen Neff, that's also on the website, where you can do these meditations and just, learn to be compassionate with yourself. And that's also a big help, I think.
I feel like this whole pandemic, because we've forgotten about being kind to each other and kind to ourselves, because we're all so wrapped up in how awful things are. So I think that's really important as well.
Like I said, I'm not a web designer, so I've tried to do my best on this website. But if anybody's out there listening, being a web designer who could maybe help on this project, I'd be very grateful, because this is just, a volunteer project of me personally at the moment, and I could maybe use some backup with that. So if there's anybody who would like to help, they can just leave a comment on the website. There's this form that you can fill in. It's actually for submitting your story, long COVID recovery story. But actually, if you want to leave another message, it also reaches me. So that's fine. And then the other thing is, there's something that's called search engine optimization. And I really don't know what this is, but it helps generate traffic to the website. So if there's anybody who can help with that, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully there will be. There's bound to be someone with IT skills.
Well, we'll see. Yes.
Hopefully somebody can help you out. Yeah, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been really, really interesting and helpful as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, for giving me this opportunity to share. So hopefully it will help, a lot of people. Thank you for having me, for giving me this opportunity to share. So hopefully it will help, a lot of people. I really hope that.
Thank you so much to all of my guests and to you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least found it useful. The Long COVID podcast is entirely self-produced and self-funded. I'm doing all of this myself. If you're able to, please go to buymeacoffee.com/LongCovidPod to help me cover the costs of hosting the podcast. Please look out for the next episode of the Long COVID podcast. It's available on all the usual podcast hosting things. And do get in touch